If I were to ask you to name a professional sports team in Los Angeles, what would you come up with? Maybe the Rams in football, the Dodgers in baseball, and of course, the Lakers in basketball. The Lakers are a franchise who have had players like Kobe, Shaq, LeBron, Magic, Kareem, and so many more play for them, and helped the Lakers win 17 rings. But many people forget about the Lakers' little brother, a team that, unlike the Lakers, have never won or even been to an NBA Finals. A team that has to deal with the occasional draft bust, playoff choke, and racist owner. The Los Angeles Clippers. The Clippers have been around for 50 years, but have basically accomplished nothing in those years. Some call them losers, some call them chokers, but maybe they're just cursed. Believe it or not, the Clippers didn't start in the City of Angels, but Western New York, in Buffalo. In 1970, the Buffalo Braves became one of 3 expansion teams in the NBA, a league not that popular at the time. The Braves played at Memorial Auditorium, a stadium they shared with another newly added Buffalo team, the Sabres in hockey. Anyway, like most expansion teams, the Braves got off to a rough start, and for that reason got to select the 2nd overall pick in 1972. The Braves took Bob McAdoo, a big man who immediately shined in the NBA. McAdoo was considered one of the best shooting big men of all time. He led the league in scoring 3 straight years and won the MVP award in 1974. That year, McAdoo averaged a crazy 34.5 points and 14 rebounds per game. However, despite his success, the Braves fell in the playoffs each year, mostly to the Celtics. In '77, McAdoo's contract expired, and the Braves weren't willing to pay what he wanted, so their best player left. Without McAdoo, the Braves were very mediocre. And guess who's not mediocre? The Sabres, yeah, the hockey team. Remember how they play at the same arena as them? Well, since the Sabres are better, they get priority over home games at Memorial Auditorium. On top of that, a school named Canisius also has a pre-existing lease on the arena, leaving Braves owner Paul Snyder scrambling to schedule home games. Home games that barely anyone went to in the first place. As a result, Snyder sold the franchise to the guy that built KFC. I'm not lying, John Y. Brown Jr. was an investor in KFC, and for some reason he bought the Braves. He kept them in Buffalo, decimated the roster, traded away Rookie of the Year Adrian Dantley, bad move, and drove attendance to an all-time low. Brown also soon realized that home games were near impossible to schedule, so in '78, he decided to trade franchise ownership with Irv Levin, owner of the Celtics. You might think Levin is a dummy for swapping the best team in the NBA, the Boston Celtics, for this dumpster fire. But as a resident of Southern California, Levin wanted a team there, and he would never be able to move the Boston Celtics. Instead, he took the Braves and moved him to California. San Diego was a destination for Levin in 1978. There, the team changed the name to the Clippers, in reference to the sailing ships that passed through the San Diego Bay. But the new name didn't seem to change the poor management of the franchise. A Los Angeles area real estate developer and attorney named Donald Sterling bought the franchise for $12.5 million in '81. Sterling would later become the most controversial owner in NBA history. The Clippers only made a couple headlines in San Diego, and they all had to do with their owner, Donald Sterling. Getting fined $10,000 for publicly guaranteeing the Clippers would have a losing season. Failing to pay his players and creditors on time, which built a hostile relationship between them. And speaking of paying late, a bus company stranded his team in New York on a game day just because Sterling wouldn't pay for the trips. Another problem with Sterling is that he really wanted to relocate the team to Los Angeles in '82. When the NBA denied his request, he brought it to court. By this point, everyone knew Sterling was a cheap guy who mismanaged his franchise. Just a year into his ownership, a committee of NBA owners forced an investigation on Sterling. But instead of removing him from the Clippers, David Stern only stripped his operation duties, keeping Sterling at the owner position. It turns out that keeping him in power was a mistake, because 2 years later, he did it again. Sterling moved the team to Los Angeles despite not having permission from the NBA to do so. Hey, you can't do that. Bring it back to San Diego. Yeah, no. Do you know who you're messing with? We can file a lawsuit against you, make you move back to San Diego. Heck, we could dissolve your entire franchise. But first, we're gonna sue you for 25 million bucks. Okay, I'll countersue for 100 mil. Wait, what? It was looking like Sterling would win his case due to the football Raiders already moving to LA a couple years back. So the NBA dropped his fine to just $6 million and let him keep the team in Los Angeles. Sterling would continue being a difficult owner over the following decades, but the worst was yet to come. Throughout all of this, the Clippers have still had no success whatsoever. Despite being in their third different city, the organization still suffered with poor performances and devastating injuries. In 1987, the team finished 12-70, the worst record ever at the time. But that's fine as long as they get the number 1 overall pick, Danny Manning, who injured his knee his rookie season. But Danny Manning started to develop in the following years, with Ron Harper, Gary Grant, and Loy Volch playing beside him. In '92, Coach Larry Brown came to the rescue after being hired mid-season, and led the Clippers to their first winning season in 13 years. For once, the city of LA wouldn't focus on the Lakers, but the Clippers, who were finally relevant. For the first time in 16 years, the Clippers were in the playoffs. But then the LA riots happened, the Clippers had to move stadiums mid-playoffs, and everyone forgot about them. That made many people also forget the fact the Clippers were bounced in the first round of the Jazz. They made the playoffs again next year, but lost again in the first round. A team with a bunch of young players had potential to make it far, but the entire team disbanded in '94. Coach Brown left, Danny Manning was traded, and the Clippers were back to mediocre. In the late 90s, the Clippers joined the Lakers and Kings at the new Staples Center in downtown LA, with, surprise, third priority over scheduling home games. Meanwhile, the draft buzz started piling up come the new millennium, and not much can be worse than what happened in '98. The Clips were given the number 1 overall pick in '98, and the front office drafted Michael Olowokandi, a Nigerian center out of the University of Pacific. Olowokandi just turned out to be one of the biggest busts in NBA history. In 5 seasons, he put up 10 points and 8 rebounds per game, for a number 1 overall pick. The late great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was even hired to develop the big man. Kareem did his best to mentor him, but after a year of trying, Kareem called him uncoachable. Candy had a toxic attitude in the locker room, didn't listen to Kareem's advice, and was unwilling to accept criticism. Michael was also inconsistent on the court, one of the reasons why he started his career 0-17. Olowokandi was an embarrassment to the Clippers franchise, and his best highlight as a Clipper is being posterized by a rookie.
Marbury off the dribble.
Stoudemire and one, and the rookie powers to the rack. Oh my!
Oh my goodness gracious! You want to talk about some power? Yeah!
What's frustrating is that in the same draft as the Candyman, there were Hall of Famers like Vince Carter, Dirk Nowitzki, and Paul Pierce. On top of that, the Clippers missed out on Amari Stoudemire in 2002. In 2003, the Clips drafted Chris Kaman at 6. The players drafted before him: Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, and Carmelo Anthony. In 2001, the Clippers acquired a power forward named Elton Brand from the Chicago Bulls, a good rebounder and efficient scorer. They also added Sam Cassell and Corey Maggette, who gave the Clippers an instant jump in production. In 2006, Elton Brand had a breakout season, averaging a double-double with 25 points and 10 rebounds. Brand was an MVP candidate in 2006, and even better, led them to a playoff series win against the Denver Nuggets, the first time they won a playoff series since they moved from Buffalo. The next series was against the Phoenix Suns, a fast-paced team led by Steve Nash. The Clippers and Suns battled in a hard-fought series that was tied at 2 games apiece. In Game 5 in Phoenix, the Clippers had plenty of chances to win. They came back from down 19 to tie the game at 101 apiece. In overtime, the Clippers got up by 3, looking to steal the game.
Diaw to inbound. Bell for the tie.
This double overtime thriller came in the Suns' favor, and soon the series. Elton Brand had an excellent playoffs, averaging 30 points per game, but unfortunately, the team was torn apart from there. First, a young player with a lot of potential named Sean Livingston was taken out in 2007 with a brutal injury. That same year, Elton Brand suffered a torn Achilles. And that year, Brand was going to become a free agent, but so was another good player, Baron Davis of the Golden State Warriors, who had an impressive season and was willing to take the Clippers to the next level. Elton Brand even reportedly agreed to re-signing with the Clips if they could land Davis. And that's exactly what they did. Davis signed a huge contract with LA. But all of a sudden, Brand went against his word and bolted, leaving for the Sixers. Elton ditching LA made him very disliked by the franchise. There were many reasons for Brand leaving the Clippers, but reportedly, most of them were because of the owner Donald Sterling. Yup, he's still there. With the team now without their best player, LA was now stuck with Baron Davis and his huge contract. Just like that, the Clippers were back to the jokes of the league. Soon, the Clippers had enough of Davis, so they sent him, along with a 2011 first rounder, to the Cavaliers. Unfortunately for them, giving away a lazy player like Davis backfired. LA was so bad that the 2011 first rounder turned into the first overall pick in the draft. That pick was Kyrie Irving. I mentioned earlier how owner Donald Sterling was a cheap and difficult man to get along with. Players, creditors, and other owners all disliked the billionaire. But in 2014, his image was ruined in front of the entire world. Over his years, Sterling had a number of racist, discriminatory claims made against him. But the public eye finally saw the truth after some tapes caught him making some racist comments towards Magic Johnson and African Americans.
You had to talk to me a lot if you want to broadcast that you're associating with black people. You have to. You could sleep with them, you could bring them in, you could do whatever you want. The little I ask you is not to promote it on that and not to bring them to my games.
TMZ made these tapes public, ruining Sterling's entire reputation. The timing couldn't have been worse either, since the Clippers were in the middle of a playoff series that was almost boycotted from these comments. 4 days later, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver announced a lifetime ban to Sterling and forced him to sell the Clippers. The franchise was bought for $2 billion, the most expensive sale in NBA history. And it's funny that someone would buy the Clippers for that much money. After all, the Clips were only known for their poor management, sucky play, and racist owners. But the worst was yet to come. We have to head back a couple years, where the Clippers, once again, had the #1 overall pick. In 2009, they actually made a good choice by picking Blake Griffin first overall. Although he missed his first season, he was a very talented young player who even won Rookie of the Year. Griffin, with his explosive dunks, boosted ratings for the otherwise forgotten Clippers. In December of 2011, the Clippers attracted even more attention by trading for Chris Paul. Paul had wanted to be traded to the other LA team, the Lakers, but David Stern wouldn't allow the trade. Instead, the Clippers had built a super team with the dunker Blake Griffin, point guard CP3, and a strong rebounder, DeAndre Jordan. The team gained the nickname Lob City from all the explosive dunks the team generated in the 2010s. Chris Paul was playing at an MVP level, and the Clippers were at its peak in 2012. In their first playoff game against Memphis, LA rallied from down 27 to win the game. They moved on to the second round, but then were swept by the superior Spurs. Over the next few seasons, the Clips would become an entertaining, fun team to watch. Lob City accomplished things like winning 17 straight games, smoking the Lakers by 48, and a highlight reel of alley-oops. LA was so good that every single year they were considered championship contenders. But after they hired Doc Rivers as their head coach, they gained a reputation as chokers. In 2013, they blew a 2-0 series lead to the Grizz. 2014, they blew a 7-point lead in 49 seconds in a tight series with OKC.
Runs out. Durant on the run. Ball is back. Durant scores. With 17.8 to the hole. Ball had it knocked away by Westbrook. The steal leads to this. Jackson is fouled by Barnes. Paul down to 3, down to 2. Trying to get it down low. Bowser took it away. It's all over. The Oklahoma City Thunder have come from 15 back. The 17-3 rally down the stretch, and they win by 1 to take a 3-2 lead.
2015 seemed like the Clippers' year after winning 56 games and knocking off the defending champs in the first round. In Game 7, Chris Paul scored a crazy game winner to send them to the next series. Now, with the biggest threat out of the way, the Clippers quickly got up 3-1 against the Houston Rockets, even blowing them out in Games 3 and 4. LA was obviously the better team, and it seemed like the series was in the bag. But the worst possible outcome happened.
Now they've wrestled a little momentum back.
Well, that had to be a walk, no?
I thought so. Josh Smith for back-to-back triples. He's back behind the play. It's 5-on-4. It is Brewer, and we're tied at 102. Incredible. All even at 102. Houston for the lead. It is Brewer for 3, and he hit it. Corey Brewer. One of the most stunning comebacks for a team facing elimination in the history of the NBA. Houston was out. They were on the mat. They were down 89-70.
In Game 6, the Rockets, without James Harden, outscored LA by 25 points in the fourth quarter to shock the home Clippers crowd. A great season ended in another choke, and the Clippers had no one to blame but themselves. In the next couple years, the Clippers were never fully healthy. The 2016 playoffs ended against Portland in another 2-0 lead choke. In 2017, they lost in 7 games to the Jazz, and that was the last straw. The Clippers were an exciting and talented team in the 2010s. They created Lob City, the most successful era of the Clippers over their long 50-year history. But despite their great years together, all Chris Paul, Doc Rivers, and Blake Griffin will ever be known as are chokers. In 2017, CP3 was the first to leave. Then Blake Griffin, who was ridden with injuries, was traded to Detroit. Longtime Clipper DeAndre Jordan also left as a free agent in 2018, along with role players like JJ Redick and Jamal Crawford. Unlucky? Chokers? Cursed? Whatever happened, the Clippers were now mediocre again. But that's not the end of the story. In the 2019 offseason, LA actually picked up a superstar nicknamed the Claw, Kawhi Leonard. He only signed when the team also traded for Paul George of OKC. Unfortunately, the Clippers gave away a rising star named Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in that trade. But the Clippers still had high expectations coming into 2020. In the bubble, the Clippers got up 3-1 against the Denver Nuggets, until, surprise, they choked it away. This marked the second time they blew a 3-1 series lead. Doc Rivers, who had cemented the team as chokers, stepped down for Ty Lue. The 2021 Clippers lost Kawhi Leonard in the playoffs, but despite that, Paul George helped them defeat the top-seeded Jazz in the semifinals. Surprisingly, despite being in the league for 50 years, 2021 was the first year the Clippers reached the Western Conference Finals. They had to face Chris Paul and the Phoenix Suns to decide who would reach the NBA Finals. Unfortunately, playing without Kawhi gave Phoenix a big advantage. Ayton made a game-winning alley-oop in Game 2, which helped the Suns win the series in 6 games. Over the next couple years, the Clippers would keep veterans Kawhi and PG-13, while also adding former MVPs Russell Westbrook and James Harden. This year, the Clippers came in as championship contenders with the 4 veteran stars, but couldn't even get out of the first round. And with the team aging, it looks like the Clippers roster will blow up and they will enter another rebuild. Anyway, this year will be the Clippers' final year at Crypto.com Arena, an arena that has brought them plenty of draft busts and chokes. Maybe the $2 billion Into a Dome will flip this sad franchise around. The Clippers might finally step out of the Lakers' shadow and reach the NBA Finals, but nothing changes the fact that the Los Angeles Clipper organization is a dumpster fire. The Clips have gone through 50 long years of draft busts, poor management, and disappointment, with nothing to show for it but being the second losingest team in NBA history. There is no other way to describe the Los Angeles Clippers but cursed.